And so anyone that says digitization of outdoor recreation is going to destroy it, I say it is what will save it.
Welcome to the LandTrust Podcast, where land, technology, and the outdoors meet. Whether you're a landowner, an outdoor enthusiast, or someone curious about the future of recreation on private land, you're in the right place. Each episode, we share real stories from the LandTrust community, from unforgettable guest experiences to conversations with landowners about their land and why they choose to share it, plus interviews with leaders, shaping how we all experience the outdoors. And now, here's your host, Nick DeCastro.
Today, we're joined by Alex Maier, a marketing and product veteran with an impressive 15-year track record across top-tier outdoor, automotive, and sportswear brands. From Audi and Porsche to Nike, OnX Maps, and now onWater, Alex has consistently built consumer-first, data-driven experiences. Now he's leading the charge at onWater, a platform redefining how people fish, paddle, and engage with waterways across the country. Beyond work, Alex is a passionate outdoorsman. He's a board member for the American Fly Fishing Trade Association and a mentor to the next generation of outdoor leaders. This episode is part of our Outsides Insiders series, where we sit down with the founders, operators, and insiders shaping the future of the outdoor industry. I'm your host, Nick DeCastro, the founder of LandTrust. Quick disclaimer, as always, the views and opinions shared on this podcast are those of our guests and don't necessarily represent those of their company or of LandTrust. There's a ton to unpack about where the outdoor tech industry is headed, the challenges we still face in getting outside, and how platforms like onWater are trying to solve them. Let's dive in. All right, Alex, well, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Nick, great to be here. Appreciate it.
Where are you calling in from? And maybe give us a quick little background. Obviously, give a little read on you there at the intro, but always good to hear from the horse's mouth, kind of your bona fides.
Yeah. So I'm a PNW native, born and raised in Washington State. Raising my family here just outside the mouth of the Columbia River Gorge. For those that know it, kind of smacked right in between the two states of Oregon and Washington. Plenty of outdoor opportunities and pursuits, but love living in a small town feel next to a big city and getting to do all the things I want to in the outdoors.
Awesome. All right. So, again, we do this podcast. I got a bunch of buddies kind of like yourself across the industry who are working on, I'd say, the next generation of outdoor technology. And it's not all technology, other kind of gear manufacturers, et cetera. I'm on group text with some of them, and we just have a lot of insider conversations. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, is expose some of those here. So why don't we talk about your kind of outdoor bona fides as far as, marketing, where you've worked in the past, and kind of what led you to your current, gig at onWater, and maybe just talk to us about onWater too.
Yeah. So for me, growing up in the Pacific Northwest, everything that we do, and my parents raised me as being rooted in the outdoors and growing up with a love for that. Grew up in a very, very, very small town, Corbett, Oregon, until I was about 7, and grew up as an only child. So for me, having fun was my parents kicking me into the outside and putting a machete in one hand and baling twine in the other, and said, "Go have fun, don't kill yourself." So it taught me to be pretty self-sufficient, as well as just being really curious about nature. Where that's taken me is it kind of gave me this foundation of an entrepreneurial spirit, kind of finding my own path, if you were. Started early career focused and predominantly building my skill set around startups. It was within the textile industry. We mainly focused on scuba diving, pet products, and military applications as it related to textiles. So, cut my teeth per se behind Juki sewing machines and learning how to sew samples and working with overseas factories on material bills and product specs, and going back and forth to the other end of the spectrum, which is going to market with that, right? Getting experience at, doing the ShamWow thing at trade shows, building websites back when HTML and like the raw way of building websites was done, and it wasn't this vibe coding AI thing. So really got a good exposure there of understanding what it meant to be in the startup world. And again, adjacent to the outdoor space. I then did a pretty hard pivot and went and worked regionally with the Porsche and Audi brands. It was fun. It was really, it it was a really good experience. I mean, getting to drive really expensive cars around a racetrack were some of the highlights. The low lights, though, is that it was really hard to work in an industry that, I mean, arguably is very much filled with a lot of big egos, and a much smaller focus on the betterment of the world and people around you. And for me, it was really getting back to the roots there of what I really cared about. So then I made the pivot to work on the Nike brand. I did it via a licensee partner, but headed up global marketing for the swimwear category. A lot of people don't know, but Nike and a lot of other big companies out there work with licensee partners that have expertise in certain areas to run certain categories of their business. And so swimwear was one of those for Nike, and it was a good run for, I think, about 4 years or more. At the end of the day, kind of is the same story. Swimming is fun. It's cool. Learned a lot. But it wasn't truly the thing that I woke up in the morning like dreaming and thinking about, or especially in my off time, right? And that was the outdoors. I then had the opportunity to move on to help launch the third vertical at OnX Maps, their OnX backcountry product, which is focused on human-powered recreation. It was a pretty cool experience getting to be exposed to that world, coming from the marketing, a marketing background, really focused on long lead times for going to market with product, right? You've got 18 months, you're executing the one, you're planning the next, and then you're ideating on the one that's farther out to near immediate feedback loops within the digital space. And I think that's one of the coolest things about digital is that you're able to move so fast. You're able to get signal from consumers in a matter of an instant. And it turned me on, right? I love this, and I love matching that with my pursuits and my passions within the outdoor rec space. I also just really love maps. And where that's put me now is I had the opportunity to step aside from there and come on board to a smaller startup and kind of go back to those roots of what I love is that 0 to 1, 1 to 2 mindset within onWater. And the cool thing, what we're doing here now is we're building out what exists in I would say an arguably really good way for land-based recreation. We're building that now for water-based recreation, where there's a huge gap in the industry worldwide.
Okay, so yeah, it's a good background. From a marketing perspective, we have mutual friends too who were ex-OnX people. Never said that phrase before, but ex-OnX people. So were you kind of user acquisition? Were you brand? Kind of what's been your forte there? Obviously here, at onWater, you're the chief marketing officer, so you kind of running the whole show. But what would you consider yourself more of, a brand or more UA or something else? UA meaning user acquisitions.
Yeah. I touched all aspects of it, from creative to brand to product to performance UA. Where I was primarily focused at OnX, and I would say is kind of the hallmark of the theme of my career, of where I naturally gravitate towards, is really this idea of product marketing. You might ask yourself, like, well, what exactly is product marketing? How is it different? It's really the heart and soul of highlighting the problem, presenting the solution to your ideal end user or consumer. It's not necessarily built to give you like touchy-feely cool vibes, like say brand marketing might.
Yeah.
But product marketing is really there to bring solutions to users that they might not have known they had problems that they needed solved, right? So what it's rooted in, though, and what I love about it is it's rooted in the insights that we glean from our users, our customers, consumers, outdoor enthusiasts, right? Of what it is that they want, and then figuring it out and translating that back to the product, translating that back to the sales team, translating that back to the brand marketing teams, to the performance marketing teams, right? So really being a beautiful hub of and an advocate and a voice for that customer, but then being able to operationalize that internally.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sidebar there on that. Historically, I think we've been pretty bad at product marketing. I don't know. It's just one of those things. We ship a lot of product, and we're very good. And for a small team, we're really good at shipping product all the time. But then we just kind of drop the ball on the product marketing aspect of like, hey, once you're in LandTrust and you're looking at different things, like we're not good at explaining what they are. And ideally, your visual design and the user experience and the UI should all it should be native. But at the same time, I still think product marketing is a great thing to say, like, hey, here's why we built this. Here's the problem we built it for, all that stuff. This last cycle of ours, and we've just started doing kind of a product market fit survey. So, the standard kind of framework of it is you ask a couple questions. So the first question is, if you could never use LandTrust again, how sad would you be?
Yeah.
And it's like very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, not disappointed at all, right? And I think if you're over 40% very disappointed, like you found product market fit to an extent. But the whole point of it is not just that. It's really about how you can start to identify these kind of latent things in your product that are, if you could fix, you could really start to drive growth there. So when people answer those questions, you kind of ignore the people who said I'd be super disappointed because they already love you. And you ignore the people who say I don't care because they don't care. And so you focus on that center, somewhat disappointed. And then the next questions are like, how would you describe LandTrust? So, or your company? And, this is a framework. I don't know if you know Superhuman, but their founder has kind of pushed out a bunch about. And so he's like, hey, we basically let our customers to some extent, build our backlog. I don't want to misquote that, but to some extent. And so you find the people who are like somewhat disappointed if they couldn't use you again, but they understand what you do. And then like, what are their gripes, right? So like, hey, what would you change? And this has been like a gold mine. We just launched it like a few days ago, and honing in on that sub cohort of like people who get what we do, somewhat like us, and would be somewhat disappointed. And they're like, and then they answer that last question of, what would you change? There's just like gold in there. So it's been a really interesting thing. And that's, it's kind of reverse engineering product marketing to an extent. I don't know. It's been fun. And I love, to your point, like digital is the only world I've ever worked in. I have buddies who run kind of consumer packaged goods or, manufactured items. And it's so foreign to me because, we can come up with an idea and ship it and see people use it. And if they like it or don't like it, like extremely quickly. Whereas I got a friend who's building a watch-based company and like the lead time, I don't know. I don't know how you stay engaged. It's just like I need to wait 2.5 years to get this thing into market before customers can use it. So anyways.
I don't know if I'd have the patience for that unless I love it so much.
Yeah, I don't either.
One of the interesting things, though, I wanted to add there about the product market fits survey, and you're mentioning Superhuman, and I think it was Sean Ellis who I would say is maybe the grandfather of that model, which is awesome. We use it at onWater as well. We used it at OnX as well. And I think one of the beautiful things about that, to dig even deeper, is it really gives you a sense. And one of the questions that we ask is it really gives you a sense of specifically who. I think all too often when we tap into the signals that we hear from our customers and our users, is sometimes we lean towards that loudest voice, but we have a really hard time of quantifying that feedback to know, is this a major signal or is this a minor signal, right? Is this something to where just because someone is blasting you on a Reddit thread, does that truly represent something that you need to pay attention to or not? And so this methodology that you're talking about really helps you do that. And then it lets you go even farther to say, okay, to what extent do we need to focus on the different personas within? Because you might have product market fit with, say, segment A, but, better, and you might be at 45%, but it might be at segment B, you're at 13%. So to what you said, like the nuggets of gold in there is amazing to unpack, especially if you can execute on it.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so OnX, obviously, I think most people listening to this will know them. Mapping company, started as huntinggpsmaps.com, great for SEO. Then became OnX. I had been around that business for a long time. I was actually a vendor of our mutual friend Ryan Watson's when he was running the user acquisition kind of team there, starting 2015, I think it was. So I got to see it early on. It was really cool business. So, probably it's definitely the biggest hunting maps app out there, and they've launched a few other verticals since then. And so now onWater, for people who aren't familiar, you gave me the chief marketing officer of what it is. But like, if you're just to tell your mom what it is, what is it?
That's a really good way of putting it. the basic way of putting and defining what onWater is, and I guess I want to be clear here. So onWater is the platform that we describe as, per layman terms, a data clearinghouse. So what we've done is we've built an underlying foundation for water-based recreation, which is we've mapped the entire hydrology of the United States. Hydrology equaling rivers, streams, lakes, bodies of water, estuaries, coastal areas. And then what we've done with that is we've then layered on top of it all of the need to know information in terms of boat launches, fishing access points. And mind you, side note, fishing access points, meaning public fishing access points. This is not to be compared to other social media based products that may exist out there that are really crowdsourcing a lot of this information that step into questionable ethical realms around outdoor recreation. But what we do is we essentially surface and create a beautiful convenience for people to go out there and just answer the basic question of where can I go fish today? Or conversely, where can I go paddle today? So onWater houses two separate products. One is Paddleways. The other one is onWater Fish. And so I think there's a great to talk about the delineation there. But
the medium is a map.
The medium is a map. Yeah, the medium is a map today. There's a lot more that we're doing. The pursuit of what we're trying to do is not just present a map, but really present and build out an ecosystem. And this is probably more of a something that's more nuanced that you don't see a lot of in the digital space right now, at least not within outdoor recreation. But it is this idea that there are many stakeholders at the table when it comes to outdoor recreation. I was just on a beautiful phone call earlier this morning with Outdoor Industry Association, and the topic around outdoor recreation in the digital space, mapping, and what should be publicly available. And what we've recognized is that not only is the information hard to come by, and we've done a great job at onWater of bringing that together, those disparate data sources together to make it very easily digestible and to be had. But also we recognize that there are so many stakeholders that want access to that information or that have information they can supplement to that. So great case in point, we work with conservation-based organizations like Trout Unlimited, American Rivers, American Whitewater. We work with organizations like LandTrust, for example, right? You guys are a stakeholder at the table to where we are able to list out private land opportunities that sit right next to side by side to the public land opportunities that we represent. That benefits our users and other stakeholders, whether that be state agencies, departments of tourism, or just generally users of our product to distribute recreation, which I think is a very important thing in the age of more people getting outside, more people finding places on Instagram to go hike or fish or paddle. And then at the other end of that too is really being able to be stewards of and support the ecosystems themselves, the physical ecosystems, and working with state and federal agencies, fish and wildlife departments, as well as departments of recreation to provide them that data, right? So again, bigger picture is bringing all of these stakeholders together to a singular platform to where we can work together to not only increase participation, increase safety, but also work to protect these areas that we love.
Yeah. So there's a few things in there. You mentioned, there are players in the space. There are some players in the space that are pure mapping. There are players in the space. OnX is doing some fishing stuff. I think they had bought trout routes back a year or two ago, something like that. Then there are players in the space who are kind of more that social side, Fishbrain being one of them. So, and I also heard social media, some people take a little bit more of a social approach. So how do you see the world, or I don't know if you want to speak on behalf of onWater, how do you see the world is, okay, here's where onWater wants to kind of like differentiate away from, hey, we're not just just pure mapping app. We're not like a social media, look at the fish I caught thing only. And, are there downsides to some of the social media stuff that happens with fishing access or other type? We do a lot of hunting stuff, and we've heard all the arguments that social media has ruined hunting, and I don't think it's ruined hunting, but certainly there are some things that has been there are some negatives to it. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I don't know. There's an ecosystem out there, and like, where do you guys kind of plant your flag, and how do you differentiate?
Yeah. So where my mind goes to immediately is, and I think it's worth stating, this is a belief that I have, that I hold strongly, which is I am all for increased participation in all outdoor activity.
Same.
If we want to really go down a rabbit hole and talk about the impacts that has on sustainability, true sustainability, in my personal opinion, means don't do the thing.
Yeah.
That's not realistic, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about, use the example of social media increasing, people wanting to get out and hunt, I say great. I say that's amazing. It is now on the industry that is encouraging that to happen. You put social media aside, that's a medium for people to digest the inspiration, right? It's every single product manufacturer, organization, state agency that sells hunting and fishing licenses responsibility to make sure that those people are going out there and doing it ethically, following the regulations, and abiding by the rules, right? And not destroying these things and this privilege that we've been given.
But it's also in our profit motive too, right?
It totally is.
If you want to sell products to people who love the outdoors, you need to make sure the outdoors and access to the outdoors and the resources, whether it be wildlife or whatever, are like strong and vibrant, and, or else
Absolutely.
There's no more industry, right?
Yeah. And I mean, and I think it's important to say this industry directly supports protecting the thing, right?
Yep.
A lot of people don't talk about this, but hunting and fishing licenses are so disproportional to any other outdoor recreation activity in terms of its financial contribution to conservation, to science, right? And so I think that there's two sides to the coin that you always have to talk about. But bringing it back to what the thing that we're building at onWater is, and you're asking the original question of, are we just a mapping product, or how do we look at this differently? The beautiful thing here is that we're not a first mover in the space. We have the luxury of being able to look and see, okay, what's worked, what's failed, who's doing it good, who could be doing it better, and what is our point of view going to be, having that guiding light of, we want to be an ecosystem. We want to bring all stakeholders to the table. We're not just B2C, but we are also B2B. The way that we do this on the B2C side is we promote, first off, discovery of places to go fish, places to go paddle. The next step is getting into the realm of understanding, helping the users understand when's the right time to go fish, when's the right time to go paddle. We do that via kind of almost a Strava model, right? So the more you put into your Strava, the more data you're going to get back to say, hey, I want to run this marathon. I want to be able to train and do this thing. So the more you put in it, the more it can give you feedback. So we take a similar approach to where you have on the onWater Fish product, you have the ability to log your fishing days. So not just your catches, but your days, right? Most anglers are not going to be catching a fish every single time they go, but there's invaluable insights to be had on the days you don't catch, right? It's going to tell you what didn't work. And that input is now going to inform your trends. What are you going to do better next time? How are you going to do that? What fly patterns are you going to use? Are the water conditions, were they not right? That's where we plug it into our system of being able to monitor those conditions, monitor what you're using. So we can say, hey, Nick, you've been fishing at 11 o'clock in the afternoon out there on the Gallatin, and the water temps have been at, 67 degrees, maybe a little bit too warm. Hey, you need to probably focus on earlier morning. You probably need to be using these fly patterns because you're not using the right fly pattern for the hatch that's happening right now. And oh, by the way, do you want us to let you know when those conditions that we're seeing here are going to be more ideal, and let you know, right? So what that is a beautiful flywheel. You find a spot, we help you get your feet in the water, you try it, you succeed or you fail, you put that data in as an input, and then it's a beautiful flywheel that gets you better, right? So what's happening here is we're increasing the likelihood that you're going to have a positive experience in the outdoors. Those positive experiences turn into people that are getting sticky within the product market fit. And in turn, we now have a very active user base that we can now pull in our B2B partners, conservation organizations, state agencies, what have you, to come in and get in front of them to be able to say, hey, not only should you go out and do this thing and have a great time, but you should be responsible with it, right? You should give back. You should do these cleanup events, etc. I think it's best said that if a system is serving the user, but not the ecosystem or not the environment as well, we're failing. And so I think that's the beautiful thing about what we're doing with onWater is we're serving the user and we're serving the ecosystem at the same time.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, some of the stuff you're talking, and I think this is where the digital outdoor tech, or my buddy Brian from GuideFitter calls it rec tech, outdoor rec technology or whatever. It's about effective use of time outdoors. That's one of the kind of threads I pulled there, which is, you guys telling people, hey, this is probably a good time to go in the next week. You've been doing this, don't do this. And, we are all, I think, just more stretched for time. You and I were talking before we got on this. We both got little kids and work. And, frankly, I don't get out very often. I've been hunting 2 days this year so far.
Mm-hmm.
I've fished a little bit more because I live down by the beach now and we take the kids to the beach. It's not dedicated fishing time, let's call it that. But yeah, I mean, it's like when I do get that time away from the family and from work and stuff, I want to make it effective. And effective doesn't mean, killing animals or catching fish every single time, but it's just about maximizing the enjoyment of that opportunity in the outdoors. And, for us, it's about that camp experience and just having something to yourself, and not having to go show up to a trailhead or to, fishing access site and there's 15 trucks there, which to me at this stage of my life is just not super interesting. It's like, okay, great. And so that's where, private land and private access kind of comes in, where it's like, okay, if I'm going to take time, it is an investment for me to take time away from the family and work and not, I'm willing to kind of like invest into that. And for you guys, same thing. It's, hey, if you're going to take time to go fish, like do it at the right times on the right days with the right stuff and give yourself the opportunity to do it and be successful.
Yeah. On the mention there of, private land access, what I think is so cool about that is exactly what you mentioned on making the most use of the time that we can have in the outdoors. I mean, we all wish and dream of a life to where we could just wake up in a log cabin and go outside, hunt, fish, and, survive, as the caveman did. But that's not the reality, right? We have, young kids. I've got a 1.5-year-old and a 4.5-year-old, 2 boys that are just, they're a blessing and they are also exhausting.
Yeah, of course.
And you only have so much time in the outdoors with them in a given moment. And so to your point, you want to make the most of it. One of the cool things here that digital or rec tech is doing to aid in that, not only things like the LandTrust platform, to have more, what would I say? To be able to build a experience where you have more of an expected outcome in terms of what that experience is. Not an outcome in terms of you're going to catch a fish or you're going to get an animal, right? But an expected outcome of, hey, the last thing that I want to do is on a Saturday where I've got a day to go spend with the kids to go do this awesome outdoor stuff. As you said, to get to a trailhead and have 50 cars there, right? Or go out hunting for the day. And this happened to me last year, 30 trucks at the public land entrance, right? And you're just going like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I also probably not safe. And so I think one of the cool things that RecTech is doing is it's highlighting all the opportunities that you can have, right? We get users all the time at onWater that say, I never knew there was a little pond that was publicly accessible a mile down from my house to go catch bass. How freaking cool, you guys. And that made a sticky, happy user.
Well, and it's dispersing, by the way, it's dispersing recreation. And so that is like, you talk about the resource, and this is probably where you're going, but I always said, starting LandTrust in Bozeman, a very public land place, and public land's great. I always have to I don't know why I have to caveat it. I like public lands, but I run a private lands company. So I always said, why are you diehard public land hunters hating this private land model? This is actually great. If you're a diehard public lands person, you should love private land recreation because it is a zero-sum game. Let's be honest. There are only so many places that you can go on public to go hunt or fish. Fishing access points, trailheads, etc. And every day that someone is choosing to go onto private land in another place is one less person there. So you're spreading out the pressure, you're spreading out the recreation, which should provide a better recreational experience for everybody, frankly.
Yeah. And I'll add on top of that, which is when you think about it from a conservation standpoint, and we do a lot of work at onWater with community citizen science efforts, and we work with partners on data collection that informs watersheds and fisheries management organizations, right? That give a sense of, fish abundance and movement, mortality, et cetera. The more eyes we have on our landscapes, the better the data, the better informed policy decisions can be made. Regulations can be made. One of the things that we've talked about with some of our friends in the saltwater world and the coastal world is a lot of the policy on fisheries that's made offshore is decided upon somebody standing at a dock, talking to anglers and asking, how many fish did you discard? You're going, I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
And you're getting maybe a sample size of 5%. And then you're making like regional fisheries management, decisions based on that. It's crazy. So I think going back to this point of distribution of recreation is that when you do it, you're going to have a better and holistic impact on the land as well.
Yeah. It's, you mentioned, I now live in coastal Alabama. So I moved from Bozeman in September and I'm loving it. We're, right down here, Gulf Shores area. And I got a buddy here who is running a company. Have you ever heard of Fishing Chaos?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're doing fishing tournaments, and I'd never participated in a fishing tournament, but they're really big, and they're actually doing work in that survey stuff. So you have all these anglers out there fishing in a tournament, and then they're able to kind of capture data that then they can work with agencies and stuff like that too. So it's a totally new world for me. I hope I actually should have John on to discuss that. But yeah, to your point, RecTech, digital outdoor technology can also be used instead of traditional survey data where, Marge calls you after the hunting season 6 months later, like, hey, did you get something? Or did you, that's what they did in Montana. Follow up, it's just like, I don't know. What did I see? I'm not sure. I don't know.
I know we've got it here in Oregon when I get my, my salmon, steelhead, and sturgeon. I'm forgetting the names right now, but when you get your license and essentially your tags for that, they send you the card and you're supposed to ride in it as you catch or release whatever throughout the season. And at the end of the season, they say, hey, go ahead and let us know, you have to mail this thing in. And I thought to myself, I'm like, wait a
second. The
second.
Conversion funnel is impossible.
I'm like, it's 2025.
Yeah.
And I literally need to go dig out an envelope and a stamp.
I don't know the last time I bought a stamp. Right? Honestly, I have no idea.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, like why is RecTech not solving this problem right now for a government agency like this? And it's just funny, right? It's funny to see this, but I think RecTech definitely has a place. It's here to stay, and I think it needs to be embraced a lot more, especially by the federal and the state level.
Oh yeah, I mean, shoot, man. I've had a handful of guys on already on this, and we talk about that, like. We work with 50 walled gardens, 50 states, 50 walled gardens of regulations and licensing and tags and lingo. Like, is it a unit or is it a zone or is it a hunt district
GMU?
Or is it a game manager? Yeah, GMU. Like, what is it? And I'm going to keep hammering on this. We need to have standardization. I don't know if you've ever met Matt from Base Map, but really good guy. But we talked, he's been talking about like, we need open source for kind of the hunt industry, frankly. There need to be rails built where we have the same standardization of certain terminology and units and all this kind of stuff. And, there's a big opportunity there because right now it's kind of crazy how everything is managed. Some states build their own. Some states are white labeling GovTech platforms for their licensing for hunting and fishing and all this stuff. So, it makes it difficult. It's very frustrating to see how antiquated stuff is. But guys like you, guys like me who are running these businesses where our users are out there every day, we started asking in our reviews, like, hey, did you see game? Did you harvest? Of course. But did you see it? And we're going to get better and better at that. So it's like, hey, I'm thousands of people out right now, and their eyes and ears out there right now, rather than a survey, like you said, at the dock or a survey at the check station, right?
Yeah. And, the 50 walled gardens, as you said, is a great way to picture it, because that is truly what it is. We see them as invisible boundaries, but I can guarantee you fish don't, elk don't,
Right.
turkey don't, right?
Yeah.
Like when you look at it, like we look at it as our organization, we look at it as watersheds, right? And
Yeah.
a watershed can cross 3, 4, 5, 15 states.
Yep.
The headwaters of the Columbia go up into Canada, and then they run down, and they go, it crosses 2 different states.
Well, look at the headwaters of the Missouri. Like I lived in, Bozeman, and they're right there. And then, you go, my wife's from Kansas, and we go to Kansas City to see her family, and it's there. It's crazy to,
Yeah. So the standardization of the data schemas, just the science-based of it would make a lot of sense. And there are some things that are happening at the federal level that are trying to aim to solve this. The Maplands Act that was passed a couple of years back. And right now, I think it's waiting for a signature at the executive level. But the Map Waters Act is also trying to take a stab at doing that, of creating some of that information to make it more digital. First, digitize it and then make it publicly available. But again, the problem there is that it's only at the federal level. It's not at the state level.
Tactically, you're running a marketing organization at a startup, and, digital I think fishing's been easier in digital, right? Fishing is, hunting and guns and stuff like that has been incredibly difficult to advertise anything on Meta's platforms or Google or anything like that. What have you seen, I don't know, recently with user acquisition? So how are you guys marketing? What's effective for you guys? And, what has really driven the growth of OnWater, and like what channels do you lean into?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's as much specific around the differentiation between hunting and fishing, but one of the things that we see, and this is just the way that I operate as a marketer, and how it's an ethos that I've instilled within my awesome team that I have, which is understand who we're talking to. It does go back to the product marketing thing that we had discussed earlier, but understanding who we're talking to, understanding really what are the problems they're looking to solve, and then speaking to them there and meeting them where they're at. A lot of companies like to go out there with fancy, fluffy marketing lingo. And, we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. You come up with a clever tagline, they're like, oh, that's good. And then you look at it and you're like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I think first off, it really boils down to what are you messaging and how are you messaging based upon the delivery channel, right? The platform.
Right.
TikTok is very different than that of an Instagram, for example.
Are you guys on TikTok?
Yes.
See, LandTrust has never played in it. And frankly, just because we couldn't generate content. I mean, those are super content hungry platforms. We just have never had the in-house capabilities to generate that much vertical video.
Yeah, you feed the beast, as I say almost daily, right? It's like you got to figure that out, and it's not without trial and error. The beauty of the digital space is you have the ability to A/B test, which we do all the time. I think it's a matter of how we work. Where if someone has an idea, I used to hate it, but now I found myself loving it, which is like, cool, test it, right? And it's just a testing mindset that we have and how we operate. But in terms of like what's working and what's not, I think what we're seeing right now is specifically in fly fishing, there's a bit of a paradigm shift. The old guard's moving out, the new guard's moving in. And what I mean by that is it used to be looked at as fly fishing was a rich old white man's sport. And now what you see, and I think OIA has presented it pretty well in terms of the increase in participation, but the diversity within fishing, regardless of type, whether it's conventional, spin fishing, or you've got a rod and reel in your hand and you're swinging flies, is that more and more people are getting into it. It's a fast growing sport. It's becoming a younger person's activity. It has no bounds of gender or skin color. And I think that that's something that what's working for us is just making sure that what we're doing is inclusive of those new audiences coming on board and supporting that. And also just kind of looking at the old way of doing things and saying, sorry, but that's not for us. I think one of the things in terms of the messaging that is working for us is also saying, and our tagline for the company is fishing access for all. But we don't, and it was a beautiful conversation I had, and I won't drop the person's name, but it was a beautiful conversation around, I said, hey, do you care about spot burning? And she said,
for the listeners, what's spot burning if you haven't heard the term before?
Yeah. So spot burning essentially, and we talked about some of the social-based crowdsourcing apps is, or even for hiking apps, right? You take a picture of a beautiful place and everyone says, where is that? And everyone says, oh, it's, Angel's Landing here. It's a hike you can do. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, next week,
it's blown out.
It gets blown out, right? And so the same thing.
So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, but continue.
Same thing happens for fishing, right? You say, hey, I caught this, 24-inch brown trout on this river, standing on this log at this time of day. And everyone's going to go, oh, I want to go catch that fish too. And then you blow it out, right? You spot burn it. Yeah. And they responded and said, I don't care about spot burning. And I was like thrown back in my seat. I said, well, why do you not care about spot burning? She said, what I care more about is gatekeeping. I was like, oh, that's interesting. She said, if the ecosystem is to work, you need more people doing the thing, respecting the thing, doing it ethically, and getting out there across the landscape to go fish, right? To go do the thing. She said, if we do more of that, then spot burning doesn't become a concern. She said, I'm not going to go tell you the time of day that the moth hatch happens off this rock when the sun hits it at 11 o'clock on this time of year every year, that the fish are going to go nuts. That's my honey hole. That's the thing that I know that is my knowledge.
Right.
But I'm not going to go tell you that you shouldn't go fish this river, fish this pond, or what exists in there that is an opportunity that gets someone excited, right? That gets someone to not give it up. And the unfortunate thing about the rise in participation that we don't always look at is the number of people that stop doing it.
Yep.
Right. And that's the sad thing is the participation rate could increase tenfold if it wasn't for people that were getting out of it, and getting out of it for many different reasons we don't need to go into, but discrimination or lack of access or lack of knowledge or, these other things. I mean, unfortunately, you can't solve people not wanting to touch slimy fish, but, there's a lot of things that we could solve.
Yeah, I mean, I know for hunting, access is the number one reason listed for people churning out of hunting. Is like, hey, I just don't have good places to go. And I think 2023 there was a special hunting report where they did a survey, and access was number one.
I mean, I can speak personally to that. I've in Washington here. It's I think it's what maybe Steve Rinella put. He says, if you can hunt in Washington, you can hunt anywhere. But access to good quality hunting land is not as easy, right? I actually look at folks that live in Montana. I'm like, oh man, would be nice. Yeah. But for us, there were 60,000+ acres that I've hunted for 25 years, and it was open to hunt land. So essentially it's private timberland that the owners of it decided to revoke access. And that's land that I've known my entire life. And, I even reached out to my state constituents and I said, hey, can you guys buy this land? Can you do something with this land to make it continue to be accessible? And they said, no, we can't do that. Not in the budget, not in our wildlife management planning, whatever it was. And I was like, dang it, this sucks. And, the year after, it was 30 trucks at the gate, where there's 2 gates to 10,000 acres. And it was a bad experience. I'm like, this sucks. Like, I was totally looking forward to being able to bring my kids to the place that I grew up knowing. Granted, it was a privilege, right? Private land privilege, but it was open to hunt. The cool thing, and actually this might be a success story for LandTrust, and they didn't bake this in, is that some of that land was now acquired by people who've seen the opportunity to be able to hunt on it. And although it's pay to access, I can access that land now, which is prime land. I mean, you're looking at 24% success rates for mule deer there.
Wow.
And for me, it's like, okay, cool. I now can get out there and do the thing. I can leave, and, our family's blessed to be able to do it, but I can say, okay, cool. We're not going to go on this public land. I'll leave it for them. There's great opportunities there. I'm going to go to the thing that I know and that I love and be able to go do this thing now. So,
yeah. In a more controlled environment, especially with kids,
especially with
we
kids.
hear all the
I can't tell you how many times I've seen, lack of wearing the orange, during rifle season, and just, poor muzzle management, just all the things you're like, I don't know if I want my kids out here doing that.
For sure. Interesting. So which channel do you think is performed best for you? Are you guys running a lot of paid ad acquisition, or are you doing stuff? Is it word of mouth? Is it, I was telling you before this, and your podcasts have performed, not our own podcast. This is brand new. We're launching our own podcast, but being guests on other people's podcasts has been an incredible channel because they get to hear long form conversations. It's not just like this. I came from the advertising industry, so I'm aware that it has a place and all that, but we've just found that podcasts have been so performant for us to drive really high quality customers that stay with us for a long time. So is there any channel specifically that you feel like has worked really well for you?
Yeah. I mean, what I would want to do before answering that question is like kind of quantify like what does working well mean? Because working well could be either volume or it could be a lower cost per acquisition.
True.
I think
Fair.
Generally, like the way that I see it right now, and for any businesses, if you're going to go into a new market, you're going to have to pay to play generally, right? Yeah. But if you're going into the market that is like, say, your beachhead, and for us, fly fishing right now for on-water fish is that primary beachhead. Although, the product is very usable by any type of angler, is really the organic channels. And it's the organic channels for us specifically being in that ecosystem of working with partners like a LandTrust or like a Trout Unlimited or any of the brand partners that we're working with, and that choose to work with us because of what we stand for in terms of conservation, access, and stewardship. That is at our core and our mission to make fishing access available to all, right? And putting a lot of things in front of our paywall. It's free to do. Is really tapping into those existing communities.
So like channels. Yeah, channel partners.
Yeah, it's the organic channels, right? It's being able to do that. And I think that we've done it in an awesome way where we've actually built integration.
Product
we're not
level
doing
stuff.
The vanity. Hey, onWater X, enter brand name here. We wrote a check for $5,000. We're calling it a partnership. You saw the social collaboration. Yeah. And it's all said
this
and done.
This influencer mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's integration. There's actually like connective tissue and blood ties, right, between the organizations. And I think that's where it's beautiful because it makes that user acquisition easier and more just like,
scalable too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been talking about this recently because we're a small team and partnerships. I was a sales guy before. Yeah, you always look to channels, right? Where can I go and access a big, customer base? But partnerships take work, take management, proactive management, especially if they're not product level integrations where it's more of a marketing partnership. It's pretty easy to get a yes to a partnership, but then making anything come from it in any meaningful way it's kind of like influencers, frankly. It's pretty easy to get an influencer to say yes to working with you, but they're only going to give you what you ask from them. And, unless you're proactively planning and nurturing and managing those relationships, they ain't going to do anything. Like we've worked with great influencers who didn't really perform for us to no fault of their own because we just didn't have the team in place to really maximize those partnerships. And that's on us. It wasn't on them. Like anytime we asked them for stuff, they did it. We're not really good at, managing and proactively engaging with them.
I could do an entire podcast on the topic of companies that execute and companies that just have good ideas.
Yeah, totally. And on the influencer side of things, we've never really had in-house marketing, so we're very much product and product led from that perspective. And there's some strengths in that too. But yeah, it's really interesting. Well, what else? Do you have any contrarian takes?
Contrarian takes.
Yeah.
The sentiment that I've heard talked about this idea of rec tech, right, is that, and it may be the loudest voices, going back on what we talked about, is that rec tech is going to destroy the outdoors. And my hot take on that is you're wrong. It is the future. It is where we're going. It is the thing that is going to make, when policymakers have to make decisions on public and private land, when departments of tourism have to go out there and figure out how they're going to spur their economy, when product manufacturers are going to go out there and say, hey, how do we continue to sell $5,000 kayaks and $1,000 fishing rod and reel setups And how are we going to keep this economy going? It's going to be rooted in data, right? And rec tech is based in data, and disseminating, visualizing, and actioning that data. And so anyone that goes, again, that says digitization of outdoor recreation is going to destroy it, I say it is what will save it.
I agree. I mean, obviously I agree.
Day.
That's what I'm dedicating my life to. You're working every day on it, dedicating your life to it. It's what will scale it, frankly. And yeah, we can easily quantify these things, and, scale comes from technology, and yes, it will change it, and it has been changing it. Certainly. I mean, if you look at OnX and kind of what digital mapping has done of just public and private land boundaries, has it changed how people hunted and fished and access the outdoors over the last 10 years? Absolutely. Does that make some people upset? Absolutely. But you can't argue that there's not more people accessing more places because of it, right? So that's good. I think some of those really loud voices are upset that things are changing. But I don't know, you can't. What are you going to do? Stand against the march of time? I think that there's an incredible amount of benefit. There's always some negatives to kind of that kind of progress, for sure. But certainly, I think it's businesses like yours, ours, and others in this space that are going to be democratizing access, and really kind of like building experiences, outdoor experiences for the next generation who are used to searching for stuff, booking stuff, like all through mobile apps and online and all that, right? It's not just going to be knocking on doors anymore. And that's really has gotten the reason I started this company, because it wasn't that effective, frankly. Like going and knocking on strangers' doors and trying to get out onto their properties is just, that has kind of gone away. It'll always exist to some extent. And that's also a big barrier for someone new. Like, I don't know very many new people are going to go knock on strangers' doors, or women going and doing that. Like, it's uncomfortable, frankly. So I totally agree. This digital outdoor tech or rec tech is going to be the future, and it's going to enable it. There's going to be more scale of outdoor access and high quality experiences because of it, and more effective use of the outdoors and our time outdoors.
Yeah. And it's protecting for our kids what they're going to be able to experience when we're long gone. My four and a half year old, he's already asking Google, what do butterflies eat? He's already asking the screen in the kitchen. He says, "What do butterflies eat, Google?" And, that just shows me that the way that they're going to access that information is from digital means. And if we're not doing our part now to make that a reality, we're not going to meet them where they're at. And it'll still be fragmented and messed up when it's his time to go out and DIY his own outdoor adventures. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think both of us, and a lot of us in this space on the digital rec stuff, it's like online to get offline. I'm not an in tool. LandTrust is not an in tool field. It's not a map. So it's more of a planning and booking, right? So you're like, I'm going to plan my trip, and you lock that in. But it's like, you put a little bit of time, and I want to make it as little time as possible. Like my best product experience is like, it would be really cool to go 3 of my friends to go fly fish, the Gallatin in June. And instantly it's all booked for you. Like that's like the perfect product experience, and you just go and have a great time. We're getting there. There's still a lot to do. So it's like spend as little time online on my platform, my product, to get outdoors and be disconnected from it. And less screen time,
I think that the hallmark of what you just said there is the beauty of what we're building in rec tech is that it gets unfairly lumped in with the world of, like, just say mobile apps, right? And you think about the addictive quality of your phone and apps and games and videos and all that stuff. What we're maximizing for is not the screen time dopamine hit. It's leveraging that screen time strategically to get the offline dopamine hit. And I think that's the beauty of what we're doing.
Totally. Yeah. Hey, look, I sold social media advertising for my first part of my career, and I haven't personally had social media since 2015 because I just saw how the sausage was made, and it was like, when I remember when Instagram started allowing, they probably like, I remember they were starting to allow advertisers to target emotions like depression and, like stuff like that. You're like, this is pretty dark. I don't know.
Wow.
It was too much. Now, of course, we still use, I've heard it said really well, like social media is a great slave and a terrible master. So for business, everyone uses it. And so if you want to reach people, you should be putting content like this podcast will be cut up into vertical video clips and be pushed out. And it has good things to it. But ideally, I am optimizing for you to be outdoors. Like my company does best when you are outside on trips with us, not using my app, So
the more people catching fish,
yes,
that's going to be put into our product to maximize more time outside catching more fish.
Yeah, the loop is just being outside more. That's the perfect.
The more you
loop.
do the thing, the better experience you're going to have for us, and therefore we both win.
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been an awesome conversation, man. So give people places where they can follow along with you, onWater, et cetera. And we'll put it in the description too.
Yeah, easy to find me on LinkedIn. I think whatever it is, slug at Alex Maier. And then you can find out about onWater at onWaterFish.app.com. Or you can also look at the other sister product, paddleways.com as well. So we'll look for everyone to check it out. And I think it goes without saying, but we have no egos with what we're doing. If someone wants to help us improve rec tech, let us know. We're not beholden to it and to what you said about product market fit and listening to our users. That's how we've gotten where we're at today.
For sure. And a shameless plug, LandTrust properties that have fishing access can all be seen through onWater's app. So it is a layer in there. So if you're looking at different waterways and you'll see I think they're orange, our LandTrust orange colored pins.
You guys have your own.
There we go. We got waypoints, markups. So if you see those in the app, you can tap on them. You can see what property it is, and it's exclusive fishing access on that property. So again, if you want to, if the trailheads are blown out by you or the fishing access sites are blown out by you, and you want to just go out and have a little bit of serenity, check those out. It's the first mapping integration that we've done. And we're excited about it. We got it kind of done, I think, in October. It's kind of after fishing season. So this will be the first fishing season where that'll be kind of in the wild. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, we're stoked on it.
Awesome. All right, Alex, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Nick.
Well, that was Alex Maier from onWater, and I really want to say thanks again to him for coming on. He brings a ton of insights and thoughtful perspective on the industry and where it's headed. If you enjoyed the episode, please do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast, and leave us a rating and review. It really does kind of help tickle the algorithms across the different platforms and get us in front of more people. Also, you can just share these podcasts with other folks if you think that they'd like them. It really does help us grow the show, and it helps bring great guests like Alex on. By the way, you can check out more of what onWater is doing over at onwaterapp.com, or you can go into the app store of your choice, whether it be Apple or Google, and search for onWater, download the app. As we mentioned in the episode, we now are integrated with them. So onWater users can see LandTrust properties in their app. So a lot of amazing new private fishing access sites are now available in onWater's app. Very easy to see. So we'll drop links to those in the description as well. You can continue to follow the LandTrust podcast and LandTrust generally on our Instagram at LandTrust_hunt. You can find us on YouTube. And then, of course, from a podcast perspective on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And if you haven't already, do head to LandTrust.com, create your free account. Tell us what you like to do. When you create a free account, it takes about 15 seconds. You can tell us whether you like to hunt or fish or camp, other stuff, what state you live in, what states you're interested in. And the cool thing is when you do that, we actually will send you new properties as they come on the platform. So if you tell us you like fishing in California and we get a new property in California, we'll send it to you right away. So essentially, we scout for you 365 days a year for free. So do go and create your free LandTrust account, and we will be sure to send you awesome new experiences as they come on all the time. Thanks for tuning into the LandTrust podcast and this episode of Outside's Insiders. We'll catch you on the next one.